These former Mavericks have been dominating the NBA playoff discourse, so we have to talk about it today here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We, of course, are DLLS Mavs. Appreciate you joining us here on this Monday afternoon. The former Maverick discourse has been hot and heavy in the NBA playoffs, with these two guys dominating the conversation so far. Plus, we'll dial up the Stein line a little bit later on in our show with our national NBA insider, Marc Stein. We'll play a little bit of a game as well about how old he was when he won his first championship. But, gentlemen, before I even throw it to you, we've got a super chat already.
Let's go.
To kick off our show here.
Let's go.
On the DLLS Mavs podcast. Classic Stain Lover with the $4.99 super chat. Is it wrong that my favorite part of Friday's podcast, Bobby, was him giving up on this team and ready to blow it up, Carella?
Well, classic Sting Lover, life is full of peaks and valleys, and Friday afternoon was a bit of a valley for me, but it was NFL draft weekend. A lot of people's futures are looking awfully bright, and I'm feeling optimistic myself too. I still feel like they should blow it up, but I'm no longer in a valley. I am back at sea level right now.
It was a record-setting weekend for us here at DLLS Sports. If you missed out on all of our tremendous coverage for the NFL draft, our DLLS Cowboys crew did an absolutely fantastic job. Our entire team did a fantastic job. You can check out all of our content on YouTube at DLLS Sports, of course, all of our shorts, all of our videos, everything else covering blanket coverage of the NFL draft. The Cowboys, of course, selecting Tyler Booker with the number 12 overall pick. And they were off and running from there. So big shout out to our DLLS Cowboys crew for their entire work this weekend for the NFL draft. But gentlemen, the NBA playoffs already underway in full swing. We saw some games yesterday, 4 games, in fact, yesterday, a little bit later on in our show when we talked to our National NBA insider, Marc Stein. Unfortunately, devastating news when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks and one of their stars. But we saw some other games yesterday, including the New York Knicks taking a 3-1 lead. The Minnesota Timberwolves taking a 3-1 lead. Boston doing the same on the road against the Orlando Magic as those series get closer to a close. But 2 players have dominated the conversation, and we will start with not number 77 because we've done a lot of talking about 77. We'll get to him in a minute. But Jalen Brunson, who scored 15 points in that fourth quarter, leading that comeback for the New York Knicks, helps them to a 3-1 lead, gentlemen. And Brunson, who's been dealing with the sprained ankle for the last few weeks of the season, has really taken his playoff performances up a notch and really dominated yesterday, especially in that fourth quarter, reminding Mavericks fans of what he did a few years ago now, I should say, when, of course, he broke out in the NBA playoff scene against the Utah Jazz. And as we know, the rest is history from there.
Yeah. Jalen Brunson, he's still good. I mean, nobody knew he was going to be this player. None of us knew. I mean, we all have quibbles with how that went down, but I mean, this is really cool for Brunson. I struggle to create or engage in any Maverick-centric narratives when it comes to Brunson. They're just not that interesting to me. They feel like they were 2 decades ago, and like Brunson is he found the place for him to thrive and succeed and be a player that I think it's fair to say, even if he had stayed, even if he should have stayed, even if Dallas lost a lot of value and a lot of their future changed heavily due to their failure to retain him, what he's able to be in New York is just different. It's just a different type of situation.
It's he's obviously great. I don't know if he got rolled up on or if I don't know exactly what happened to him. It looked like he was maybe going to miss a long time whenever he first went down. But he leaves the game, comes back a few minutes later. Heather Mao, who he's shouted out quite a bit over the years, that's a former Mavs staffer. Casey Smith, obviously, there as well. They were able to get him right pretty quick. He gets back in the game and he dominates. Another former Mav played in that game and played pretty well too, Tim Hardaway Jr. He and Jalen were kind of going back and forth down the stretch of that game, and that was a lot of fun to watch. And then Cat just took over at the end and hit some just impossible shots. But, Tim, 3 for 5, 8 points, was playing pretty well, but we kind of saw why I think Jason Kidd might not have wanted him on the floor too much during last postseason, because Jalen was getting a lot of his points on Tim, and it was kind of really interesting to watch. Honestly, both teams were targeting that guy. The Knicks were going at Tim. The Pistons were going at Brunson, and both teams were scoring like every single time. It was pretty entertaining to watch. And I mean, that's like the give and take of playoff basketball is you can score all you want, but if you can't defend, then it's going to be hard to win.
Yeah, but every great team with a great offense is going to have a player like this. It's very, 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 very rare to have a two-way star. And quite frankly, I don't think it's awesome that the Jays in Boston, that Shea, that these guys are not defensive weaknesses, but they still turn into defensive targets because as much as they are not the weakest defenders on their team, you still end up trying to expend their energy. You still build schemes around protecting them from constantly being targeted no matter what in any situation. So I just, a player like Tim Hardaway, that's different. Tim Hardaway is a role player. Moving on for him. Quite frankly, something similar may have happened to Klay Thompson if Dallas had, kept its team together.
Yeah, well, none of this is like a referendum on the Mavs.
Right.
I mean, it's just I think that's why Tim didn't play in the playoffs. Conversely, like Asar barely played in the fourth quarter, and he's their best defender probably, but he can't play offense. So it's like that's why you need a Derrick Jones Jr. kind of guy that can defend like Asar, but can shoot not to the same level as Tim, but at least close to it.
It was the full Tim Hardaway experience.
Derrick Jones?
Well,
couldn't really shoot in the finals.
Neither could Tim, except for Game 4. Whatever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a better shooter. I ideally a little half step up, even from where Derrick Jones is.
He was
coming off the bench.
He was in the 20s where you would hope for mid-30s, but on 3 shots a game, you're making 1 extra shot throughout that entire series. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you saw the full Tim Hardaway Jr. experience in that game yesterday because those first 3 quarters, especially in that third quarter where the Pistons were begging Tim Hardaway Jr. to hit one of those threes because the place was ready to explode. I think he took maybe 2 or 3 threes in that quarter where they were up 7-8 points, and you just felt like the momentum was building and building. And if Tim had knocked down 1 or 2 of those threes, the Pistons felt like they were on their way to trying to get themselves close to, they could blow that game over, but he just could not knock down one of them. And then in the fourth quarter, you saw the experience kind of turn around for him, the streaky nature of what THJ is, and played well in that fourth quarter. But
you loved that final play, didn't you, Kevin?
Jeez, man.
You hate fouling 3-point shooters.
Dude, that was so like fuel conspiracy theory level.
It was
missed call.
Yeah. Oh, we have.
Oh my God, we got the birthday boy on set.
In the
it's
it's
do we have
pop.
it? Do we have it? Do we have it? Do we have it? I want to dance.
We'll find it. What do you got for us,
Tanner?
If the Lakers lose in the first round,
There
if the Lakers lose in the first round, Nico's coming to Club Pop-Pop.
Oh,
You're going to be smoking hookahs.
because the Mavericks are advancing out of the first round, and they're up.
That's because all the talk about the Lakers. He gave them a championship team. If the Lakers lose in the first round, oh my God, Fake Show dead.
That's all he really came to say. That's all
why,
he really
why are
came
you wearing 4 and blue and gold cap then, Clarence?
It's Omega Sci-Fi.
Ah, okay. He says Omega Sci-Fi. It's not a Lakers
Interesting.
fan.
Omega's my fraternity. Older than the Lakers.
That's
Older
very
than the
true.
Lakers, he
Older
says.
than the Lakers.
That's very
Yeah.
true.
Older than the Lakers.
Yeah.
They
That's very
stole
true.
your colors.
I'm just saying, LSU did too, but I'm just saying. Older than the Lakers. Have a good show.
Happy birthday.
Hey, you too, man. Happy birthday.
Pop.
The first GM who gets judged purely on the results of another team.
That's the path he chose.
That is the path that he chose.
It is.
That is the path that he chose. We know you do. We know you love some drama. But yeah, look, Brunson, back to him real quick. Look, the 50 points that he had in that fourth quarter, he was the reason why he was named the clutch player of the year. I mean, he has come up big time and time again, maybe a little too reliant on Jalen Brunson at times to come up big in the clutch. But he did so in a big time way yesterday. You mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns, some of the big shots that he hit. But that reliance upon Brunson has become one of the more interesting things over the last couple of years, that they have found the Knicks have got their guy that, hey, we're going to give them the ball down the stretch to go make it happen. And he has done that in a lot of different ways, and no bigger display than that yesterday as they take a 3-1 series lead over the Detroit Pistons. They'll look to close it out later on this week when they go back to New York to try to move on in the Eastern Conference playoffs. On the other side of things, the Los Angeles Lakers yesterday fell down 3-1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards went nuclear in the fourth quarter, and the Lakers, who did something for the very first time in the play-by-play era, they played 5 guys the entirety of a half. They did it in the second half. That means Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui Hachimura, and Austin Reeves played every single solitary second of the second half. JJ Redick saying during his postgame comments that the decision was made at halftime that all 5 of those gentlemen would play the entirety of the second half. It was not enough as Anthony Edwards was able to make the plays down the stretch. LeBron James tried to do what he did as a 40-year-old with the defense. Tim, I saw your tweets yesterday. You know, the idea that LeBron James at 40 years old, not just the offense that he was playing, but more importantly for me, the defense at which he was playing with yesterday was absolutely incredible. But unfortunately, the hand was not part of the ball when he got called for the foul that allowed Anthony Edwards to be able to hit the couple free throws to be able to win the game in the end for Minnesota. But
yeah, but what did my tweet fully say?
Yeah, that's why I was going to throw it to you. What
did it say?
I don't remember because that's why I'm asking you.
He should be at Home Depot.
You tweeted
He's a 40-year-old dad. What is he doing on the basketball court? You should be at Home Depot or Lowe's or Costco. You should not be on an NBA basketball court. You are 40. You are a father. Go do what is your duty as a 40-year-old dad. It's ridiculous. He's just it's embarrassing. You know, I'm not even close to 40 or a dad. We hope that we know of.
Oh, okay.
But I am offended on behalf of my 40-year-old fathers who are out there, just putting them to shame. You know why the 5 players the entire second half, like, it's a bad decision because they lost and they're tired down the stretch. You know why it was really a bad decision? What the Lakers do well defensively when they were really rolling, especially in the regular season, is and when they play small, because they were playing small, they played their small ball for the entire second half. They didn't double. They didn't double Anthony Edwards. They hedged and they had players kind of in his vicinity, but they did not genuinely send double teams, because you can't send doubles and then trust everybody to rotate around the backside, which is what a small ball lineup full of, switchable, 6'8" wings is like. That's the best case scenario for playing those lineups, and the Lakers didn't do that. And so the biggest defensive benefit of playing that lineup was something that was taken out of their hands, because if you double, you're going to have backside rotations just running around this whole game, and they didn't effectively, they weren't able to channel that. I mean, they should have done it sooner, but also, if the decision not to send those doubles at Anthony Edwards were because, to preserve energy, that's why you should be playing a Gabe Vincent, who I'm not convinced whatsoever is, a massive downgrade for a 6-minute spell to get 3 minutes of rest to Luka and maybe LeBron. I'm not convinced that, Vando couldn't have played 3 minutes. I understand Jackson Hayes shouldn't be on the court. Absolutely. Jordan Goodwin, I mean, I like him. I think that he's been reliable enough, but to me, that was one of several issues with playing everybody the entire second half. Is just that small ball lineup. One of their biggest advantages on the defensive end was something that you just can't do when you're playing them 24 minutes straight.
They're just getting so much stuff at the rim, and that's not just because of Luka. I mean, the Lakers just don't have a lot of size, and so they're definitely going at Luka. One way to defend him is to try and zone him, use him as the low man, and the Lakers tried that, but I mean, it's just not working, man. Like, they just don't have a lot of size. Dorian, at this point in his career, I don't think he's really able to keep up with Ant one-on-one in the way that we saw, him do in the playoffs against guys like Donovan Mitchell, a couple years before. But the Wolves are getting more than 28 shots in the restricted area per game in this series. Last year against the Mavs, they got fewer than 25 shots in the restricted area. They're getting a ton of shots in the paint in general. It's just too easy for them, and offensively, Luka's having a pretty good series shooting wise. He's really, he's catch and shoot threes, pull up threes. Like he's having his way, getting to the rim, finishing. He's going at Nas and Gobert and having a pretty good amount of success, except for in the fourth quarter yesterday. But they're missing the lob target. Like they got nothing. It's like guy with the ball can score and that's it. They have some shooters, but the Lakers are a very incomplete team. So it's hard to judge them based on how the series goes. But I said before, and I maintain, the Wolves are winning that series. I said it before the playoffs. I said right when they made the trade, Lakers aren't winning a playoff series. I will stand on that hill forever.
And you said 28 to 25 shots at the rim?
From more than 28 to less than 25, yeah. 28.3 to 24.8.
When you consider that's a bigger number than it sounds when you consider that any given game you're going to get 15 to 18. Just that happens every game. So you look at those 10-ish. They're conceding 3 more of those 10-ish that are more qualified or
a good defense
electable.
will turn that layup into a floater or won't even allow you the floater. It'll be a 18-footer or an off-balance shot or whatever.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, the discourse around particularly Luka Doncic has been hot and heavy over the last 24 hours as they fall down 3-1. Plus, a little bit later on in the show, we'll play a little game about how old he was when he won his first championship. So I'll quiz these fellas on who won their first championship at what age. We'll do that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, what in tarnation is more Texas than barbecue and country music? That's a rhetorical question, Tim.
Oh.
Actually, it's not. I have the answer for you.
Yeah,
the
you
Lone
didn't
Star
probably want me to
Smokeout.
answer that.
It's the Lone Star Smokeout, which is coming to AT&T Stadium this weekend, May 2nd through 4th. It is 3 days of barbecue and tunes out where the Cowboys call home. You can try barbecue from 14 teams across the United States and decide for yourself who's really the champ. A barbecue taste test. Hopefully they got some burn-ins there. Hopefully they got some sausage. Hopefully they got some smoked turkey. Those are the 3 things that I usually go for whenever I get barbecue. And every single day, there's other stuff going on, too, like Texas' biggest happy hour. There's Derby Day. You can celebrate Cinco de Mayo a day early. Country's biggest stars like Cody Jinks, John Party, and Midland will be performing as well. And we might even be giving away some VIP tickets, too. So stay tuned to our social for that. Kids 10 and under get in free in general admission. Tickets start at just 68 buckaroos. Don't miss out. Get yours now at LoneStarSmokeout.com.
It's that time of year again where property taxes are due, and Ownwell wants to take the pain out of paying those property taxes. Owning property can be challenging, but Ownwell can help you take care of it from start to finish. They believe that when it comes to paying property tax, you should only pay what's fair. Ownwell handles everything from start to finish, delivering top results. No upfront costs. They only pay if you save. 86% of Ownwell's customers receive a reduction with an average customer savings of over $1,100. Some serious scratch, especially at this time of the year when taxes are due. So put property tax back in your pocket in just minutes with Ownwell. Remember, the deadline to protest is on May 15th for most counties. Save money on your property taxes with Ownwell. You can sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your protest today at ownwell.com/DLLS. That's OWNWELL.com/DLLS today.
Bobby,
What's up,
did
guys?
home ownership
Tanner,
scare
if you would
that
have cut
much?
like 1 second later, no one would have even known that I was gone.
How would they have known? No way they could.
No way they would have known.
There's a downside to staying hydrated, folks.
And you saw it run across your screen twice.
Yep. It's better than seeing it dribble down the screen.
The DLLS Mavs.
You heard it, the first pro dehydration podcast. Yeah, that's us.
We support hydration here. On
Yeah, the D in DLLS stands for dehydration.
Wait, what?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No.
I'm just riffing here. I'm doing my best. Nobody knows what it does stand for. Wow.
Okay.
Silent.
Yep, exactly.
I love asking questions that just send people into shock. Send them into panic.
I'll ask you guys some questions a little bit later on about how old these players were when they won their first NBA championship. We'll do that coming up next segment. But the NBA playoffs continue to roll on. 4 game 4s yesterday, where each of the winning teams took a 3-1 series lead, including the Indiana Pacers, who got it done on the road yesterday over the Milwaukee Bucks. to take a 3-1 series lead. Unfortunately, they're dealing with the loss. Are the Bucks with the loss of Damian Lillard? We'll talk to our National NBA insider Marc Stein a little bit later on in the show on what it means for the Bucks and Giannis going into this particular summer. But gentlemen, as we have seen over the last 24 hours, really over the weekend with the NBA playoff action, particularly focused in on the player who no longer plays for the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic, who had a big game yesterday, was outshined by Anthony Edwards, who had 43 points to lead the Minnesota Timberwolves to a 3-1 series lead, putting the Lakers on the brink of elimination. They'll resume their series on Wednesday in Tinseltown as Luka and the Lakers look to stave off elimination to force a Game 6 back in Minnesota. A lot of conversation, not just around Luka's play in this series, but particularly on the defensive end, where we know that can be a problem for him on that particular end. But you guys mentioned something that I thought was very interesting, because we know that the Lakers played all 5 of their guys for the entirety of the second half. In fact, Luka played 46 of a possible 48 minutes in yesterday's game. And I thought this comment was particularly interesting from John in the chat, Tanner, which starts with JJ Panic, talking about JJ Redick. JJ panicked and they emptied the tank to try to steal that game. Luka's defense is worse than last year, but he has no protection behind him, which is interesting because Jackson Hayes has clearly become unplayable for this entire Lakers team.
He's not a good big man.
No, and you're seeing the unfortunate effects if you're watching the Lakers play, because there is just nothing on the back end to stop what is a much bigger and more physical team in the Minnesota Timberwolves. And Julius Randle was on full display. Speaking of Dallas, the former DFW native has been spectacular and was spectacular yesterday. But I think it just underscores what the Mavericks built behind Luka in terms of their defense and the lack of what the Lakers have been able to do. And it's being exposed, obviously, in this series against a Minnesota team that the Mavericks handled last year with the kind of bigs that they had in their own lineup.
Yeah, let me think. There are so many narratives here that I have thoughts on. Let's start with the idea that our beloved Pop kind of came in. Does the Lakers losing in the first round affect the narrative of the trade? So I've always viewed the trade and the narratives around it with 3 layers. The first layer of why I personally think that the Luka Doncic trade never should have happened. The first layer is that because of the franchise, because of Dirk, because of what Dirk represented to the franchise, how Luka was a continuation of that. I think that because Luka was carrying on that mantle, that you shouldn't just not trade him, period. Straight out. A different franchise with a different culture, with a different history, I think it'd be a little bit different. I think that was a non-starter of why you wouldn't trade him. The second narrative, or the second layer to this, is that the Luka trade itself just was not well done. To do it midseason, to get back what you got, to put such risk and around a team that was injury prone. The trade itself was just it was a horrible return on investment. It was a horrible time to trade it. Everything about the trade and when it happened and how it happened was a mistake. And then there's the third layer of trading Luka, which is the question of examining just in a vacuum, without those elements, without considering that, should you trade Luka? Personally, I would not do that because of what he can represent to the highest level of basketball. And I think if Luka had just kept on winning, if they had made it to the conference finals, theoretically still possible, but they're not going to beat Minnesota down 3-1. That would have looked so bad, obviously. And the narrative would have only increased that, Luka was a win now and a win later player, that he's doing fine. But I do think that the way Luka has looked is worse than last season. More specifically, I think he's more guardable. He is absolutely still offensively playing very well, but a lot of what he's doing is hitting really hard shots rather than being unguardable. There's a difference between those two. If you hit really hard shots in man-to-man coverage, that's different than creating really easy shots that defense have to adjust and account for. And, it's kind of like we were just having this conversation about Kevin Durant. Does he affect winning? He does affect winning. He's a great player. He's like a better version of Carmelo. But a player who just hits really tough shots, 5 to 6 times a game, that's easier to guard than a player who is constantly creating easy layups that defenses then have to account for, whether for himself or others. That's Luka at his best. I see less of that. Now, is some of that affected by not having a rim runner? How much is he affected just by, being, if you put him in a 5-out spacing, he doesn't beat his man as easily. He really needs the advantage that comes from a rim roller. I think there's some truth to that. I don't think it's totally fair. Dallas has constantly run, at his best in Dallas, he ran, constantly against mismatches. He didn't always need a big man. How many times did we see Derek Jones coming up for the screen and then him just picking on big man? I do think that I'm just watching him, and even as his numbers look good, the step back doesn't look as easy for him to get to. Some of the driving layups he had were, I just kind of looked at it and you're like, oh, you missed that. That's a little bit worrisome. So when we come back to this big narrative, what does the Lakers' failure with Luka on the team mean for the trade itself? It doesn't affect the first two layers that I think for me are just, that's enough to say this was one of the worst trades in NBA history. It does start to affect a layer that, again, would you trade him? Is he tradable? Is he potentially declining as a player? Is he, all of these questions. I don't think I would trade him if I was in that situation, even without those two factors, even without the franchise history, even without considering what they got back from him. I think I would not be in the business of trading Luka Doncic because of how good he can be, because of what we've seen, because how valuable his archetype, his skill set is. That said, I do think it gives some more merit to the idea that, in a vacuum, it's debatable whether Luka would be somebody that you could consider trading just because he doesn't quite look himself. As John said, his defense is a little bit worse, even this series. And this is supposed to be the time that he's entering the postseason all healthy. Obviously, he had a sick game. Obviously, the team isn't optimized. We always knew that. But those are my big picture thoughts on a bunch of narratives that are kind of circling around. Sorry, big, long, beefy answer. I don't know if you want to jump in on any aspects of that, but
no, I mean, I'm not using one playoff to justify how I feel about a trade. I mean, the whole point is this dude has a long career ahead of him, whereas the guy you traded for doesn't. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about that either way. I don't think that the Lakers they're not as good as a 3 seed. Like that's just not a 3 seed team. So I don't think that they should be judged as a 3 seed either. Their second best player is 40. Their third best player is a absolute colander on defense, or sieve, I guess. Wrong cooking hardware.
What's a colander again?
Kind of the same thing as a sieve. You use it to like strain pasta, but
that's what yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it's I think yeah, I don't really know what to say.
I mean, he's
playing. I don't know.
Yeah, obviously, this is not a trade this is not a series or a team that the Lakers are where they are right now that you can look at and say, oh, Nico was right. No, this is not the series or the team that the Lakers are to say that, you know what, I see the vision, Kendrick Perkins, when it comes to the idea of that the trade of Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis was the correct one. This is a team, both teams, obviously for the Lakers, one that is still not fully formed yet, a team that clearly has needed to find what will need to find another suitable big man going forward, and obviously retooling around Luka Doncic in the image. The part that frustrates me the most, to the point that Tim made in terms of the defense of the trade and trading the player itself, is that you found the type of team to build around the superstar in order to give you an idea that this is the long-term path towards success, and you decided midway through that course to move on from it. If you had traded him during the offseason, okay, that's one thing. But I think one of the things that will go talked about as the summer goes on here, the reason why, in my opinion, Nico Harrison traded him when he did is that he could not risk Luka Doncic coming back healthy with the type of team that he had built around him and then them going and making another finals run again. Because if he does, and let's say they not only go on to the finals but win it, and then you trade him, it is completely and utterly indefensible at that point. So people will point to the idea, why was he traded midseason? I think because Nico Harrison couldn't risk the idea that Luka coming back would help them lead into the finals, and then you ultimately can't trade a guy that led your team to back-to-back finals appearances and going forward from there. But this is incomplete in terms of what the Lakers are. The Mavericks obviously have a long path back towards success given the situation, how much older, how much more expensive and injury riddled they have gotten with this particular trade. But to Bobby's point, the Lakers now have a 10-year runway versus the Mavericks having.
Maybe.
I
LeBron
think
makes
they do.
it really hard.
I'm saying
your second best player being 40.
Well, I'm not talking about LeBron James. I'm throwing out LeBron
But
James.
I'm saying they don't have like just they have about as many assets as the Dallas Mavericks have. Like their rebuild is going to be.
They should have none in a perfect world.
Correct.
But
Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't. Maybe I'm feeding right into the I don't care about Luka's defense. I don't
care about it either. Honestly,
he's a bad defender. I mean, that's why they lost
obviously.
the finals.
But every single he should be a little bit better. I don't care about his conditioning when he was sick 2 days ago and then played an entire second half in an unprecedented way. I don't care about that stuff. What I care about, where I am going to ding him, is that he is not the unstoppable offensive force right now. He is not. That is where everything about would you trade him, would you not, has a little bit of merit. And now, why is he not that? Is it because he needs a rim runner? Is it because of all these, is it because he's declining physically? I'm not saying that, I don't know, but like he is not an unstoppable offensive player. He is not like Jokic level, like tied with Jokic level right now. And that's where I'm going to ding him a little bit on this. But yeah, think back to the Mavericks defense last year. I think even as banged up as Luka was during that run, he was a little bit better defensively. Dallas also had a scheme where he would, instead of forcing players baseline, which is almost always what you do, he would force players middle because they knew they had a rim protector that they wanted players being funneled, driving into.
Had two of them.
Always, every single great team with a great offense has a scheme to make up for offensive players who are not up to the par of the rest of their defensive-minded players. Every single team. The Lakers don't have that scheme right now, and it's showing. And that's basically now, can they have that scheme if Reeves is also on their team? I think so, probably. I think it's fine, but also maybe you need to consider trading him, but I don't know for what or who. But
big.
But I don't like any bigs that are
Reeves
available.
For Gafford.
That's
coming.
Yeah, that's too much.
Oh, hoop idea.
All right.
Anyway, that's but yeah, to me, what I'm dinging is that Luka has to be, the best offensive player in the playoffs, and yeah, he is getting outplayed by Anthony Davis on the offensive end.
Edwards. Anthony Davis is not in the playoffs.
That's right.
Yeah, famously, Anthony Edwards on the offensive end. That's why I'll ding him a little bit. Not whatsoever. Not in the business of doubting that he can get back there or will get back there, and I think there's a lot of factors for that, but yeah, that's where I think it is appropriate and fair for some criticism of him to happen.
Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, I got a little game from my guys here. How old was he? Guys who won their first NBA championship at this particular age. It's an exercise in patience for organizations. We'll talk about that next on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
First, I got my Dynasty draft open in a different tab on my laptop, on the Sleeper app, of course. I've come away with a lot of good players. I don't want to bore you with the details about my fantasy team, but trust me, my future is bright. But your present can be even brighter because every single day in every single sport on Sleeper, you can put your ball knowledge to the test, your puck knowledge to the test, or whatever the case may be, to project whether your favorite or least favorite players will record more or less than their projected stats each and every night. That includes playoff basketball, playoff hockey tonight, Stars need to win, and much, much more. With Sleeper, the more you pick, the more you win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Thanks to their pick multiplier, it is awesome. The app also provides you with all the latest updates on injuries, transactions, news, analysis, changes in projections, and a whole lot more, so you can always stay one step ahead of me and one step ahead of all of your friends. If you want to play along with me, download the Sleeper app today. Use promo code DLLS Mavs when you sign up to get $5 when you play to get $55 when you play $5. Sorry, that is an important distinction. Do that on the Sleeper app today.
Get ready for the summer ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair that match your style. You probably even have a style in your favorite team's colors. I love Shady Rays because I love walking around. It's getting sunny. Always need the shades on. And if I ever leave them or lose them, every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades are to 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Appreciate you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Coming up next segment, we'll have our national NBA insider Marc Stein join us as we recap the weekend of the NBA playoffs, and the Bucks got a real situation they've got to deal with going forward. By the way, last note to tie up the conversation we just had in our last segment, Wolves offensive player shot 40% in the game yesterday against Luka as when he was their primary defender. So just an interesting note there when it comes to Luka and the defensive numbers.
Well, 40% is pretty bad, but also that stat is super, super, super wonky.
Yeah. I just want
40% means he did a pretty good job, but also does that match the eye test?
Yeah, just some numbers to throw out there when it comes to the context of the conversation as well. But I want to play a game with my guys here on the DLLS Mavs podcast because I think what we've learned in a lot of years when it comes to teams winning championships, you got to exercise a little bit of patience when it comes to your particular superstar. So I got a game for my guys entitled, How Old Was He? Looking at some of the biggest stars in the history of the game that have won NBA championships and the ages at which they won those championships. You guys ready to play?
I've never been readier.
Okay. Well, let's start here. Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player in the history of the NBA. When you remember the 6 titles that he won, 6 finals MVP, scoring champion 10 times, all those accolades, do you remember how old Michael was when he won his first NBA championship?
Tim, you have to get to Kevin. Already gave me all the answers.
No, I didn't give you
really?
all of them.
Well,
I gave you a couple of them that I didn't mean to give.
So
you.
you're gonna have to carry the load.
I remember this because people love talking about this. It feels like it should be 28 or 29, but I'm going to say 30.
28.
28. Okay.
Ding.
Okay. I was right.
You get half credit for that. Although you did say 3 years, so you cheated.
You did. Your range was a little. Yeah.
28.
I think it's somewhere between like 19 and 45,
Right.
just like somewhere in there.
So Michael was 28 when he won his first championship. Okay.
Okay.
Let's keep going. LeBron James, arguably considered the second greatest player in the history of the game. Of course, won his first championship with Miami several years ago.
29.
29?
Yeah. Ow.
27.
Okay.
LeBron James was 27.
Wasn't 26, was it, buddy?
No, we'll get to that in a little bit. So you see, it's taken the 2 greatest players that we consider in the history of the game. One was 28, one was 27. Okay? Let's keep going. Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant would have been 29.
Oh, wow.
Ow.
28.
Close.
One off.
28.
Close.
So Michael, 28. LeBron, 27. Kevin Durant, 28 years old. Are we sensing a theme here so far?
Steph would have been.
God, he looks so young in that picture.
He looks like a child.
He does look like a child.
He would have been 27. Yeah? 27?
27.
Okay, there we go.
The
there we go.
27 club.
So Jordan, James, Durant, and Stephen Curry were either
Not a better club than the 27 club. The other 27 club's actually very sad. I'm glad he's not in that one.
Okay.
No, it's a thing, and you said it. So I just wanted to clarify.
So you're sensing a theme, either 27 or 28 for Jordan, James, Durant, and Curry. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Shaquille O'Neal. How old was
even
he
knows?
when he won his first
Came to the league in
NBA
93,
championship?
won
Let
in
Bobby guess on this one
2002.
because I don't think I gave him this.
I'm going to say 30.
Okay.
I'm going to say
Tim?
29. 28. 29.
28. Okay.
28.
Okay.
So Jordan, James, Durant, Curry, and O'Neal, either 27 or 28 years old when they won their first
All right,
championship.
so the next one is going to be 27 then. Mark me down.
Oh, no.
27.
Hakeem Olajuwon,
No, he was older.
who won back-to-back championships. How old was he
32.
when he won his?
I'm going to say 31.
Bobby says 31.
Let's go.
Okay.
Hakeem was 31 years old
Let's go.
when he won his first NBA championship.
They
Now,
better both get the next one.
they should get the next one. Now, this one should be near and dear
31.
to everyone's heart.
Oh, dude, he was 32.
Oh.
That's
Well,
right.
he was 31 that season.
No, he turned 33 like the week after they won. June 19th, 1978. Good God. How do you not have his Wikipedia page memorized? Fake fan.
Okay.
Fake fan.
Not a fan.
13th season.
So let's just stop right there real quick.
Did we say it was Dirk? I can't remember.
Oh,
if
Dirk
we even
Nowitzki.
said it.
Dirk
Yeah,
Nowitzky.
for the podcast.
Yes, Dirk Nowitzki, 32 years old when he won his first championship. So what do you guys
we
notice?
saw Dirk on the graphic.
That's
but you're
right.
We
We also-
gotta spell it out for the podcasters.
What
The
do you
people
guys
still living
notice
in the 19th century?
so far in terms of the age of these players and when they won their first championship? What sticks out to you?
Let's see. Well, I noticed that none of them are 26, for sure. I definitely noticed that. But I also noticed none of them are 35. So Luka better not turn 35 and not have a championship. Because none of them have a championship at 35.
I would say the one thing I've noticed is that only one of those players has good vibes, and it's Dirk.
Oh,
think
wow.
Steph
Steph?
has.
Steph doesn't have good vibes?
No,
other than his NIMBYism.
only one of them is the hero of reality.
No, that's true.
Oh,
And
of course.
that's
Okay,
Dirk
wait. We're
Nowitzki.
talking to Bobby here. So, yeah. Okay,
that's,
all right.
that's all fair.
All right, let's keep going. Giannis. How old was Giannis when he won his first NBA championship?
27.
I'm going to say 26.
Ah,
26.
Darn. I
Yeah.
could say damn.
One of the things I found interesting about kind of going through some of this, especially with Dirk and Giannis's titles, in the age of social media, the amount of patience or lack thereof that social media, however real you may feel that it is, and the lack of patience they would have had with Dirk trying to get to his championship would have been unbearable. Like, we see now how people feel about certain players who have not won a championship or trying to get to winning a championship, having to go through the entirety of Dirk's career by the time you got to the age 32 of him winning a championship. I think it just shows you what kind of culture we are dealing with when it comes to the basketball discourse, because folks would have hated Dirk Nowitzki's chances of trying to win a championship as his career went on, because
They did. It's
No,
it's
I'm
not
saying-
hypothetical. They did.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even the much more heightened use of social media now, it would have been just completely unbearable. I mean, look how we view LeBron James and other folks in the context of some of this. Let's keep going here. We got two more. Nikola Jokic. How old was he when he won his first NBA championship?
28.
29. 28. Okay. Well,
28.
I didn't want to guess the same as you.
I know my Serbian stars.
Okay. Last
okay, well,
one.
just go transfer to DMVR if that's a.
Wow.
Jason-
Last one.
26.
Jason Tatum.
Yeah, 26.
26 years old.
Yep.
Yeah. The point of this conversation.
Jason Tatum on this list is a little bit of what the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? It's a little bit of that going on.
The reason why I wanted to include him is because obviously the most recent NBA champion, but he's obviously the same age as Luka Doncic at this point in his career. He's 26 years old. The point of this exercise is to show that when organizations, in a lot of these cases, decide to show the kind of patience and stick to the plan that they've created based on the superstars that they have available to them, it can work out. And when you've got guys like Hakeem, who was in his 30s when he won his first championship, you could say the circumstances were a little different because obviously Jordan retired, and who knows how many more championships he would have won if he hadn't retired. The point is, you build around the superstar that you have, and that's what makes a lot of this, at least for me personally, disappointing in how the Mavericks decided to pivot from what they had relative to the finals run that they made last year and the team that they built around the superstar going into this year, and then abandoning that plan when it felt like they had a chance to actually have a little bit more of a successful runway.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of those guys were on their second team. You know, KD was, LeBron changed teams, Shaq got out of there. Granted, different circumstances. The players either forced a trade or wanted out or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a lot of those guys also had been to the finals and lost before they won a title. In fact, maybe every single one on that list except for Jokic has lost to finals. I guess MJ never lost to finals, but he lost to the Pistons like a million years in a row.
Yeah, he never lost.
The Warriors
in the finals,
didn't, I guess, but they lost. They
lost
flamed
right
out
after.
in a couple playoffs. Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, every other one of those guys had either lost as a 1 seed in the first round in Giannis's case, or had lost in the finals at least once before winning, including Tatum. So yeah, you gotta sometimes you gotta go through you gotta learn from the L's.
Also that list outside of the players who didn't change teams, and then also excluding Dirk, I think all of those stars had co-stars who were about the same age. So they were always on the same trajectory, which makes it a lot easier to stay in one place. If we're doing this just to make the Luka comparison, in fairness, he didn't have, but again, he was traded without his, he had no role in in leaving.
But they had found the co-star who had enough of a window left in his prime, theoretically, to be able to make that work. And you saw the fruits of that and the way it came together in the one full year that they had together. Like, that's the part that I think goes underrated about the discussion, is the one full year that they had together. Hell, they made the finals. Now,
I'm still not sure that a Luka Kyrie backcourt could win a championship, just because there's so many defensive issues. But I would have rather found out than did what they did. Certainly,
yeah. I think that
then make that trade. I mean, I would have, sure, if I was going to trade Luka for anything, I would have waited till the offseason anyway. It's almost a moot point for me. But yeah. I mean, it's obviously I would have liked to find out.
Would love to have found out for sure. Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, we welcome in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, as we recap this weekend's NBA playoffs and the situation that the Bucks find themselves in after the loss of Damian Lillard. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, holy moly, what a month of coverage we've had at DLLS Sports, from Luka's return in early April to Rangers opening day right around that same time, to the Stars playoff push, and now to the NFL draft. April has brought a whole lot of news, insight, analysis, and opinions to you on alldlls.com, our great website here at DLLS Sports. And today is the last day of our best diehard sale we've ever done. This is $36 to sign up for the whole year, which averages out to about $3 a month. When you sign up, you guarantee yourself coverage of all of these events all over again next year. You'll get coverage for the entire draft, for all of MLB spring training, for the playoff pushes that the Stars and maybe the Mavs will be on, for all of the offseason coverage coming to you ahead. You will be part of all of that. And when you sign up, you get a free shirt, which pays for almost the cost of the membership itself. When you sign up, you get a discount on any other gear, discount on any events. You also get to join the DLS Diehard Discord Lounge. It's a great place to hang out. And, oh my God, what is that I see? What is that I see? That's a physical Die Hard card.
Boom!
You get a physical Die Hard card.
Weight to it.
You also get to read, like I said, all of the written coverage on alldlls.com from folks like Tim Cato, who's probably writing a story right now, to folks like Jeff Wilson on Rangers, Sam Nessler, Sean Shapiro on Stars, Joe Hoyt, and the birthday boy himself, the legendary Pop Clarence Hill on the Cowboys beat. They brought so much coverage, all these new players coming in to the draft. And we're going to do, the NFL draft is a little bigger in size than the NBA draft, but we're going to bring you the same level, the same quality of coverage whenever that thing gets fired up here in a couple months. So it's never been a better time to join the DLS Sports family. Thank you to each and every one of you who have. However you choose to support us, hey, you are valid. You are awesome. It is our pleasure to hang out with you on the internet every single day.
Shout out to Ardell. Says my DLLS Jamie Benn shirt arrived last Friday. It's a pretty great tee.
Heck
Shout
yeah.
out to you, Ardell.
Heck yeah.
One of our diehards here at DLLS Sports. Let's welcome in our national NBA insider. You can find him on X at the Steinline. He, of course, is Marc Stein. Marc, what's going on?
Gents, how are we today?
Doing lovely. How are you, Mark?
I am okay. If you guys tell me my mic works, I'll be even more giddy.
When Tanner
tried, you guys are laughing. I don't know why, but when Tanner tried to bring me on, the picture was sideways. So at least we fixed that.
I'm laughing because it's the single most funniest bit every time you come on this show is you do an impromptu mic check to make sure that your mic is working, and I just find it completely hilarious because it's clockwork every time.
Well, I think the last time I did try to join remotely, like it was muted or something. So I don't know.
It's fine.
It's all a haze. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a bit of a somber Monday. I really thought we would be just talking about this crazy good playoff weekend because Golden State wins a game 3 without the injured Jimmy Butler. The Knicks win 2 in Detroit when it looked like they were in trouble. The Aaron Gordon alley-oop, which is, will go down as one of the craziest playoff buzzer beaters ever, and officially went down as the first buzzer beating dunk in playoff history, because the famed DeAndre Ayton valley-oop from a few years ago when the Suns went to the finals, people forgot that after they reviewed it, time actually went back on the clock, so Ayton didn't get credited with the buzzer beater in there. And then, as you guys have just been talking about, Anthony Edwards went to a new level in games 3 and 4. I mean, literally his ascension as a star in this league is happening as we speak. And I really thought we would be just waxing poetic about all of that. But that Damian Lillard scene last night was gruesome, sad, just absolutely it sucked. There is no other way to say it. You feel sick for Damian Lillard, who had already been felled by a blood clot issue and rushed to come back. And, this is, it is one of the risks you take when you're out for so long and you jump back into the playoffs with no ramp up, and just awful. It was really tough to watch. All Achilles injuries are. I was in the building when it happened to Kevin Durant in the finals. I'm still haunted by watching it happen to Stanley Roberts with the Clippers like 30 years ago. Achilles injuries are just particularly difficult to watch, and you have to feel for Dame Lillard right now, because at age 34, that is just gruesome and tough to face.
Because this puts in jeopardy his entire season this upcoming year at 34 years old, suffering that left Achilles tear in the game against the Indiana Pacers, where the Pacers take a 3-1 lead in that series. The Bucks now were already going to be a big topic of conversation this summer, given the potential future of Giannis. It becomes that much more of a focus now that Damian Lillard, I would imagine, would miss most of next season with this torn Achilles. Where are the Bucks when it comes to this, not just in terms of their own particular situation, but in the context of the rest of the league, who were already going to be watching the Giannis situation this summer?
Yeah, Kev, you're totally right. Look, the Giannis chatter had already begun. In fact, Jake Fisher and I had our Sunday notebook and had a very long item in there about John Horst, the Bucks GM, agreeing to a contract extension last week in the middle of this series, and just how that was going to play into the whole Giannis dynamic. But yeah, look, you watch the Damian Lillard thing and your first reaction is just shock and sadness for a player as great as Dame to have to go through this. But I'm sure it did not take long. And, if our 4 letters were I always say, what are our 4 letters if we were Milwaukee? If you had that kind of mindset, or just being a Bucks fan, instantly your second reaction is, oh my God, what does this mean for Giannis's future? Is it a lock now that he's going to ask to be moved? How on earth, the Bucks were not close to title contention with a healthy Damian Lillard. It just has, they didn't win 50 games this season. And just, I guess my reaction to it was just thinking, Phoenix, Philly, obviously your Mavericks. I think you have to throw Miami into this equation too. These are all teams that had really high expectations, high payrolls. They looked at themselves as championship contenders, and whether it's injuries, chaos, self-inflicted damage, controversial choices that these teams themselves made, it's not a one-size-fits-all to put all these teams in a grouping. But now the Bucks, they're in this club too, of just, where do they go from here? And look, the difference with Milwaukee is they won a championship in the recent past. They traded Drew Holiday. They traded for Drew Holiday, and they traded for Damian Lillard, and it got them 1 championship and 2 Giannis contract extensions. So I don't know if Charlie Saturday is in our chat, but I think really only Bucks fans can answer this. Was it worth it? I would imagine most Bucks fans would say yes. So you contrast the Bucks to the Sixers haven't won it all since 1983. The Suns have never won it all. the Heat went to 2 finals in the Jimmy Butler era, but they didn't win either one. And now the Heat look as far away from title contention as they have in years. And the Mavericks, as we are known to talk about on this show occasionally, they're never going to win a championship now with Luka Doncic because they chose to trade him away. And so, you know, I think Bucks fans, like I've been trying to imagine what it's like for them to wake up this morning and just know that, I mean, Dame Lillard is out for the foreseeable future, and the ripple effects of what that could cause for their franchise have to be super, super daunting. But yes, I mean, they did win one championship with Giannis, and like I said, it's just, I'm curious, is that enough? Like, is that enough if you're a Bucks fan?
This is Recky Specky. Rex Specs? Why don't we call it Rex Specs? Oh no.
Oh my God.
Well, I'll keep talking while we try to get Mark back. But
Oh no.
in a weird way, I almost think it would have been likelier Giannis left if the team failed by its own merits. Like, I could envision him leaving Milwaukee, but something about this just makes me feel, just on a gut level, that he wouldn't leave a team that has all these asterisks on why they failed, even though, you know, like he would have wanted to be like, hey, we tried it again with this core and it didn't work, and you can see that it didn't work. So this is why I'm moving on. But it just completely wearing Rex specs right now. But who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows, and it's obviously the biggest, you know, an enormous question going into, you know, this coming NBA offseason.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to make $54 million next year to not play. Dame is, and the Bucks were not that good with both him and Giannis healthy, so I can only imagine. I mean, they're going to be really, really bad next year unless they can figure something out. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for this Bucks to make the path back, especially dealing with the situation that they're dealing with there. Mark, before we let you go, you're going to be moving about a little bit this week. You've got some travel plans ahead of you, so we appreciate you hanging out with us here before you move.
Well,
across the country.
I will be in studio tomorrow with you guys before I go. But then I got game 5 of Wolves Lakers and game 6 of Nuggets Clippers, and that will at last finally be my first trip to Intuit after, you know, I was going to go with the Mavs for that baseball series in April, but I had to scrap that one because too much was going on before Luka's return. So I am really excited to go to Intuit Dome because that's been the best series, I think. And look, I heard you guys talking before, and you know, this is not like, okay, the Lakers are squandering an amazing series from LeBron the way things stand to be down 3-1. But like, even if they lose this series, even if they lose in 5, do you think they regret for 1 ounce the Luka trade? I mean, are you kidding me? Like, this team has so many structural issues that, again, and I heard you guys go over it, and JJ Redick is certainly facing criticism for only playing 5 guys in the second half, which has never happened since play-by-play tracking has been available since starting in 1996-97, and we can second-guess that decision all we want, but it does underline the very serious limitations that this Laker roster has. The Luka Doncic trade was not about this year for the Lakers. The Luka Doncic trade was about getting a 10-year runway they didn't have. And I know Kevin is itching to throw to the Fast Channel 59 alert, so I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your time. We sincerely appreciate it, and we'll see you in studio tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow. Be good.
Bye, Mark.
See you, Mark.
That is our guy, Marc Stein. You can always dial up the Stein line at the Stein line on X. That'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. We sincerely appreciate all of you joining us here on our show today. We will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports as we continue to chronicle, of course, all of the NBA playoff action as the playoffs continue. The Cavaliers look to close out their series tonight against the Miami Heat to move on in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So a lot of tremendous action still to come after what was a tremendous weekend of NBA playoff action. Appreciate our guy Tanner, make us look good and sound good as always. Appreciate you, sir. That's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Carell. That is our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.